Good morning, dear students. Today being Saturday, we are starting with our communicative English class, and formal and informal greetings formal and informal greetings are one of the components of spoken English, and we shall focus on these two aspects today, right? Formal and informal greetings. Okay, so before we go ahead, can anyone please text me uh, what you learned last Saturday on spoken communicative English class? Okay, what did you learn last week? Can you please text me so that I can recollect some of the things? Any one of you can text me. Okay, today our topic is formal and informal greetings. Okay, first we'll go through the formal greetings, right? Okay. So, dear students, there are certain expressions which we need to, there are some certain standard expressions which we need to learn when it comes to interacting with people, right? When it comes to interacting with people, especially in the context of today, greetings. Okay, when you meet someone at a particular time, how do you greet him or her? We shall learn. There are two types of greetings. One is formal greeting. Formal greeting is formal greetings take place in the formal setup like in school, college, or office setup. That is formal greetings. And informal greetings, as you know, it can be in the marketplace, in the shopping complex, it could be in a theater or in a party, it could be anywhere. So that is informal greetings, right? And formal greetings basically refers to greetings that takes place in the official setup, like in school, college, university, or office, right? So first of all, let us try to learn some of the standard expressions in formal greetings. Okay, so here we are. See, it is important for us to learn, like for example, how are you doing? So, how are you doing is another way of asking, how are you? Right? So, there are many people who say, how are you doing? There are many people who say, how are you? Right? So, this is one of the standard expressions of formal greetings. Okay. Good morning, Graham. I am doing well. And you. So, and you is something which you have to learn, dear students. Actually, what happens in spoken English, it is better to avoid using the long sentence, right? In spoken English, you always avoid using the long sentence. As far as possible, you use the short sentence, right? Because if you use the short sentence, what happens? That is a protocol, you can say, in using spoken English, right? Like for example, uh, I think most of the students have joined. Uh, okay, so dear students, like let me tell you some of the short sentences used in spoken English. For example, if I ask you, have you taken your lunch? So you are supposed to answer me, yes sir I have, or no sir I haven't. Instead of again repeating the same sentence that I have asked you, if you say, yes sir I have taken my breakfast, or no sir I haven't taken my breakfast, so that doesn't make much of sense in spoken English. So when it comes to spoken English, always remember to use the short sentences, right? Like for example, do you do exercise in the morning? You should say, yes I do. Or if you don't do, say, no I don't, right? Instead of this, if you say, yes, I do exercise in the morning, or no, I don't do exercise in the morning, so that will not make much of sense in the context of spoken English. So always remember that in spoken English, you need to make use of short sentences, right? That is the fundamental principle of any spoken discourse, dear students, okay? Any spoken discourse. So I'll show you. I'm talking about greetings. Okay. Okay. Let me just do it for you here. Yes. Okay. So, dear students, uh, I hope you understood. Okay. Like in the spoken English, we tend to make the short expressions, right? So that is why Lucy said, "And you." Okay. If Lucy had said, "How are you doing?" or "How are you?" right, then it was merely a repetition of the of Graham's sentence. That is why Lucy just said, and you means what about you? Right? What about you is, and you means what about you? Graham says, I'm great, thank you. This is my friend Ranjita. She is thinking about applying to this college. Okay, so one thing have you noticed, dear students? If say, whenever Lucy asked Graham, what about you? Then Graham said, I'm great, thank you. So that is very important. Supposing that if someone asks you, how are you? So you got to say, I'm fine, thank you. The word thank, the expression thank you should be used after your response. So that is a normal protocol, right? So this is what you can use in the formal context, and these are the standard expressions that you should use because some of the interviews or in some of the admission in college and school, these things are taken into consideration whenever they interact with you, right? They see minutely whether you make use of such standard expressions so that they can do marking on that basis, your knowledge or your communication skill, your concept of communication skill. So these things are very critical in your selection process. Therefore, whenever you interact, you please make standard use of standard expressions, and typically what I am telling you at this moment, content is of course there, but along with the content, your subject, your language should also be polite and formal. Okay, you cannot afford to use any kind of informal language or any kind of you can say words which are not relevant in formal context, right? So that is why we should we should uh, we should give focus or emphasis on using only the standard expressions in our interactions or day-to-day interactions. Then you see, here is written, would you mind telling us about the process, please? So Graham, it's a conversation between Graham and Lucy. Graham has come with his friend Ranjita, who wants to apply for admission in a college, and Lucy is the admission in church in a college. So therefore, Graham wants Ranjita to know the information detailed from Lucy. So now Graham is seen to be introducing Ranjita to Lucy. So that is why Graham says, this is my friend Ranjita. She is thinking about applying to this college. Would you mind telling us about the process, please? So, dear students, another standard expressions that you have to keep in mind here. Another standard expression that you've got to keep in mind here is, would you mind telling us about the process, please? Right. So, would you mind telling is another way of polite inquiry. It's polite inquiry, and if you see the structure, you can see that mind is followed by the ing of the main verb. Would you mind telling? So mind is followed by the ing of the verb tell, right? Ing of the verb tell. So some more example, let me give you, like, for example, would you mind visiting my house this evening? Would you mind explaining me this concept? Or you can say, would you mind coming with me to the market? So, would you mind is always ing of the main verb, and would you mind is used to take someone's permission, for example, or to politely request someone or politely ask someone to do something for you, right? So, would you mind telling us about the process? So, here Graham is asking Lucy politely to furnish information about the admission process to Ranjita. That is why he is making use of the polite expression here. That is, would you mind telling us about the process, please? Right? Now, Lucy is saying, hello Ranjita, it's a pleasure to meet you. Okay, Lucy says, hello Ranjita, it's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you. Right. So that is also one of the standard expressions, dear students. If you are introduced with someone by someone, okay, like here, as you can see, Ranjita is being introduced to Lucy by Graham. Okay, so Lucy in return says, hello Ranjita, it's a pleasure to meet you. So this is also something like, how are you? I am fine, thank you. So thank you is the expression that we use with I am fine, right? Likewise, if you when you are introduced to someone, you address him or her, and then you say it's a pleasure to meet you, or it's a pleasure meeting you, right? So this is also a standard expression that you need to attach to a particular sentence, like thank you we have attached with I am great. Likewise, it's a pleasure to meet you. You attach with hello Ranjita, right? So always remember that when after you are introduced with someone, you need to address him and then or her and then say it's a pleasure meeting you or it's a pleasure to meet you. So these are some of the standard protocols that you need to learn, okay, to be doing well in the interview or in admission uh, in a college or university. Nowadays, a lot of like they take a group discussion, like an interview and all that. So if you know these standard expressions, then you shall score good marks on this front actually, okay. That is why I am more than happy to speak with you. I am more than happy to speak with you. She's saying, please meet me once next week. Might be this week Lucy is very busy, so she has asked Ranjita to meet her next week. Next week, please meet me once next week. So now Graham says, it is a pleasure to meet you, Lucy, right? So you can see, it is a pleasure to meet you. Like Graham is might have forgotten initially to say, of course, but now at the time of parting, he is saying it's a pleasure to meet you, Lucy. Okay, so sometimes during the introduction phase, you can use it's a pleasure to meet you, or sometimes when you are leaving or when you are parting from one another after the introduction, that time also, like Graham has used here, you can make use of this expression, it's a pleasure meeting you, Lucy, or it's a pleasure to meet you, Lucy. So always remember here, students, it's a pleasure to meet you, or it's a pleasure meeting you is an expression which is used at the time of introduction or at the time of parting also you can use. Okay, thank you so much for helping us. Then Lucy says, in place of when Ram says, it's a pleasure to meet you, Lucy. Lucy replies, don't mention it, or you are most welcome. So sometimes you are most welcome, sometimes don't mention it. Okay, so now let us analyze our some of the standard expressions that we have learned today. Right? We have I already explained you, but again as a recap, let us know some of the standard expressions that we have learned. Okay, so in this conversation so far. Okay, so the greetings, good morning, good afternoon, good evening are used at different times of the day to greet people. Good evening is often used after 6 p.m. or generally when the sun is set. So good evening you can use when, especially when the sun has set. Okay, the sun has set. Then good night is not a greeting; it's a parting expression, you can say. It is used when leaving a place or group of people. So good night is used when leaving a place or a group of people. We use good night. Thank you and good night. Good night and see you tomorrow. Right? Thank you and good night. Good night and see you tomorrow. So, dear students, good night is a parting expression. Okay, suppose that you meet someone in the evening, say around 8 o'clock, and then by 8:30 you are leaving him, so you can say good night. So even 6 o'clock in the evening you meet him, you say good evening, but when you part from him at 6:30, you say good night. Right? It's not that you have to use the expression good night only at night, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. No. After the sunset, anytime you depart from anywhere, anybody, depart from any place, you can say good night to the people who are present in front of you, right? How are you doing? How are you doing is used to inquire about your well-being. Another way of saying how are you. Would you mind telling? I already explained you. Is an expression to be used to ask for two occasions. Would you mind is used for asking for permission or to ask somebody in a polite way to do something. Either to ask for permission or to ask somebody in a polite way to do something, right? Like for example, do you mind if I open the window? Okay, so you are asking for permission. Do you mind if I open the window? Or would you mind explaining this point to me? This is ask somebody in a polite way. Would you mind explaining this point to me? Okay, and if you want to use this as in the form of would you mind, then you can say would you mind my opening the window, right? It should be would you mind my opening the window, because would you mind opening the window is it is you who have to do who has to do this. But if I say would you mind my opening the window means I am opening the window, right? That is why mind is followed by my and then I enter the main part. So normally this is not used. People normally say, "Do you mind if I open the window?" Right? So that is why here would you is not used. Would you is used in some other context here? Would you mind explaining this point to me? It means to ask somebody in a polite way. And here, do you mind if I open the window? This is to ask for permission, right? Okay. Then would you mind calling me in the afternoon? So you are politely asking him to do something, okay? And don't mention it, dear students, is another way of saying you are welcome. The phrase you are welcome is more formal. However, responses such as don't mention it, no problem, happy to help are informal ways of responding. Okay. So, dear students, that is all about the formal thing actually, okay, formal expression. Now we shall study informal expression, dear students. Okay, that is about formal expression. Now we should study informal expression. So let's see. Okay, so this is informal expressions. Okay. So dear students, informal expression you see here, informal greetings. Do you know what is informal? Might be in someone's residence, or might be in a party, or might be in a shopping place, or might be in the marketplace, or might be in a theater. So these are some of the places where people have the people go for informal greetings and all that. Okay, right. Graham and Lucy once again. Hi Lucy, how is it going? See, instead of how are you doing, it said how is it going. is the same thanks and you. See, Lucy is asking now and you. That is important. Dear students, try to understand this. Lucy is asking fine, thanks, and you. And you means what about you? How are you? And you means how are you? Fine, thanks, and you. And you means what about you? Graham, just fine. Where are you off to? So, can you see here the same rule applies here, dear students? The same rule is applied here. See here, when Graham asks, how is it going? Lucy doesn't say, I'm fine, thank you. She just said, fine, thanks, and you. So instead of saying, how are you, she said, and you. So sometimes in informal context, we make it more short actually. In formal context, we make it more short. So see here, how is it going? Fine, thanks, and you. And then instead of saying, I am fine, Graham said just fine. So always remember, dear students, in informal context, in informal situation, we can be further short. Okay, we can be further short. In formal expression, we are short, but in informal situation, we are further short. Okay, we are shorter. So instead of saying I am fine, he says just fine. Where are you off to? So where are you off to is another way of saying where are you going. So where are you going means where are you off to. So here Lucy did not repeat Graham's sentence. Lucy said straightway said to the library. Understood? So this is what is spoken English standard expressions all about, dear students. Okay. So you have to remember these protocols. Okay. Where are you off to or where are you going? Instead of saying I am going to the library, say to the library. Right. So next I've got a science exam next week and need to start studying. Okay, that is Lucy's statement. Lucy is giving the reason also. Lucy is giving the reason also as to why she is going to the library. Then Lucy says I'll explain you when is used. Graham, oh no. I'll also tell you when oh no is used. Well, I'll see you later. Good luck. Lucy says thanks. See you later. Right? Now let's analyze. Hi is an informal way of saying hello. Okay, we use hello in formal situation, whereas we use hi in informal situation. Always remember, dear students, hello is used mostly in formal situation, whereas hi is used in informal situation. How is it going is an informal way of saying how are you. Right? How is it going is an informal way of saying how are you. Right? How are you? So, how is it going is an informal way of saying how are you. Right? Notice the rising intonation on and you. This shows that Lucy is interested in what Graham has to say. This shows that Lucy is interested in what Graham has to say. Right? So, notice the rising intonation and you. So, and you means and how are you. Always remember, dear students, whenever, let me tell you, like for example, whenever you ask somebody some question, or whenever we talk, you might have noticed there is a rise and fall of our tone. That is called intonation. Like for example, um, um, uh, you've taken my book, haven't you? See, when I say you've taken my book, haven't you? So when I am saying haven't you, my tone has gone up. So that is called rising tone. That is called intonation. Intonation means a pattern of rising and falling of tone is called intonation. Right? Like for example, this is a beautiful house, isn't it? So when you say isn't it, it is going high up. Right? So this is a beautiful house. You see, this is a beautiful house. So it is going from lower pitch to higher pitch, right? So that is this particular curve, sometimes going up, sometimes going coming down. So that is what is called intonation. So we need to manage the intonation part also when we speak. We cannot just speak flatly. We've got to follow the pattern of intonation, right? Pattern of intonation is very, very important. So that is what is said to the library. Okay, I am going here because the information was already established in the question. Therefore, again, I am going to the library. I am going is not required, just to the library. So, in spoken English, we are not supposed to repeat the sentence of the speaker, okay, or the person who has spoken this, right? We can resort to the short way of speaking. Okay, expression people make when they think that something is disgusting or unpleasant. Like, how can you eat that stuff? So, if you are disappointed or if you are feeling unpleasant, in that case, you can use the expression called Like, example here is given, how can you eat that stuff? Okay, next is oh no. Oh no is a way of saying I sympathize with you or I understand you are not happy. Right? Oh no means supposing that your friend has told him, your friend has told you like I have lost my book today, I have lost my purse today, I have lost my wallet today. Then you can say, oh no. Okay, so oh no here means I sympathize with you. Okay, I also feel bad. I feel sad. Okay, that you have lost your purse. So in that situation, you can use oh no, right? So you can use in this situation or when you are not happy. Okay, you can also use oh no, please go away from here, right? So oh no is an expression which is used either to sympathize with people or to understand that you are not, or to show that you are not happy. Okay. No, used to express surprise, fear, joy, etc. Okay. For example, oh, but only oh is used like oh no, I've broken it. In some other sense also it is used, right? Suppose you are showing uh, kind of fear in your mind. Oh no, I've broken it. I'm not supposed to break it, right? But I've broken it. So you are having some fear. At that time also you can say, oh no, I've broken it, right? Oh, how wonderful. So when you say, oh, how wonderful, it shows joy. So oh is also used to express surprise, fear, or joy. Oh no can also be used when we express some fear, right? And see you later is an informal way of saying goodbye, right? In formal situation we say goodbye, but in informal situation we say see you later. So dear students, these are some of the standard expressions of formal and informal greetings that I taught you today. And I should give you some assignments in the form of recording a conversation might be, or in the form of making a podcast. Okay, so I'm making the assignments and then I'll pass it on to you. So please do visit the page once again and revise entire thing that we have done today in the class, so that next week might be we shall go on a Zoom or Google Meet class so that we can have direct interaction about what we have just learned in these 2 weeks. Okay, so I'll let you know. I'll also give you an assignment. So that's it. You please do revise all this and do remember the standard expressions because these are required. Okay, when you go to take admission in college or university, or might be like when you go for personal interview. Okay, so these things are very important. These are some of the standard protocols we have to make use of while we interact with people in both formal and you might have seen that we have different set of expressions for both formal greetings as well as for informal greetings. So these things you've got to keep in mind, especially for formal greetings, because this is how you are also judged. Your communication skill, your communication competence is also taken into consideration from these aspects also. Okay, how much protocol you are maintaining, how much of standard expression you are using in the conversation. So please do revise all this, okay, occasionally, and we shall have a live interactive session on next Saturday, okay, to reinforce the concept that we have learned today and last week as well. Okay, dear students, bye bye, take care, and have a nice weekend. Before you leave, please register your badges. Yeah, right. Yes, sir. When is the class, sir? Exam?
छत्तीसगढ़ में तो मंडे ऑनवर्ड चालू पेपर नहीं बनाया है मैंने अभी तक उनको पेपर पहले बना के देना है।
So you must be having the question bank, right, sir?
अरे है लेकिन वो चेंज हो रही है ना चीजें, तो पुराना पेपर कोई मतलब का नहीं रहता सर।
Okay.
सिलेबस चेंजिंग, सेक्शन चेंजिंग, कंटेंट चेंजिंग, तो उसकी सेटिंग बिगड़ जाती है।
Right.
अगर सेटिंग बिगड़ जाती है तो फिर उसका पूरा वो पुराने वाले को सेट करने में इतना टाइम लग जाता है कि नया बना लो ज्यादा अच्छा।
Yes.